With loads of business advice flooding the industry, it has never been harder to see the path to success. And you can't take action if you don't have clarity. Get clear on the actionable tips and strategies that will help to scale your business here on Masters in Clarity, the podcast that brings you clarity around messaging, business growth, digital marketing, personal development, and the business owner's journey to success. Let's join our guide, the master of turning clarity into action and lasting impact, Dolores Hirschmann.
Sonia, I am so excited to have this conversation with you, to really connect and learn I always call it the clarity journey, and some people are like, well, it wasn't that clear. So tell me about that journey that brought you to this moment, maybe for this second, a little second of clarity.
Well, thank you, Dolores. I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. So it was indeed a long, long journey, my journey of clarity, and clarity is ever emerging, right?
But weave the thread of moments or decisions or circumstances that at the end of the day got you to this moment in this interview.
Yeah. So I guess I should start from the very beginning, which is that there was something really amiss in my relationship with my mother that, through no intent of hers, but left me unsure who I was, what I liked, what I wanted. So it was a long journey for me to even ordering food from a restaurant menu was like a struggle sometimes. So I went along a path where I was competent. So I was good at math. And so I was a serial student. I studied engineering. I got a master's in statistics. I got a PhD in business with a focus on economic analysis and policy. And then I was like, I could feel that it wasn't fulfilling for me. I mean, it was a very prestigious path, but it wasn't fulfilling. And so sometime in there, I decided, well, I wanted to change the world and change it, writing these academic papers that 5 people read or what wasn't going to do it. And at some point I decided I was going to change the world with the kids I was going to have. I was going to raise them and to be good people. And then through the ripple effects, that would change the world. So that appeased me a little bit. And that's when I had my first child. But I went to the end of that. I finished my PhD and I even got a job teaching and doing research at a business school near me here. But eventually, by the time I had my third child, I was ready to, I'd gone to the end of that path and I was ready to do something else. Now I'd gotten somewhere in there, I'd gotten into personal therapy for me to help me kind of along my path of self-discovery. That was, it was really not a very happy teenager. And that's an important step. Today I call myself your happiness guide. It didn't kind of fall in my lap. So it was an earned title. And so, I'm going to fast forward a little bit here. I spent a few years being a scrapbooking consultant, helping people do creative photo albums. And
that's a tangent I wasn't expecting.
No, yes. And a lot of people didn't expect it. Like, you did all those degrees for that. But it was actually, the beginning of it was a little bit entrepreneurial. It was social, it was creative, and it actually brought people some happiness to enhance their photographic memory. So looking back, that was kind of the premise of my activities, to help people find happiness and fulfillment in their lives. But along the path, I trained as a therapist. I started in 2008 practicing therapy. And then in the last few years, I've been broadening and developing more personal development programs. And I've been trying to, get some visibility. And that's how I met you at a conference, at an online conference about, getting on stages. So that's how I got here.
And so happiness, that's a loaded word.
Isn't
it's supposed to uplift you and bring you into the high vibration. But for many of us, it could be one of those things that is too complex to even wrap our head around it. Like, what is happiness? Let's start with that. What is happiness?
Yeah. So I don't know if this answer is going to be satisfying to your listeners, but I talk about experience your true happiness. So it's really up to you to decide what happiness is to you. I can tell you what it is to me. To me, it's, or how I think of it. I think of it as each person having their own mix of peace, meaning, and joy. So some people are more into the joy, they like to laugh and joke around and have fun. And, me, I'm, the place I like to be is when I feel peaceful, I'm not stressed, I feel like I can handle things, and I have kind of a sense of inner peace, but then also some amount of meaning, that I'm not just, or, meaning, that's also a loaded word, but I mean that I'm working for a goal that has meaning to me, right? So meaning to me, and to the, when I'm talking about helping people, that it's meaningful to them too. So that's how, in a nutshell, I would say. But it's also, if I can add one more thing, that it's easy to say you're happy when everything's going well, so you're this happy or that happy, and you might want to be happier even when things are going well. But it's when, in those circumstances where you don't think happiness belongs there, that I found in my own journey the real rewards of all my personal work. And so I'm thinking in particular at the end of my parents' lives, my mom, with who I had the relationship that something was wrong with. If you'll allow me, I'll tell a short story about how that ended. So it's about December 15th, 2018. And it's been a really rough year. My mom had cognitive decline. My dad had many surgeries, and the more my dad was in surgery, the more my mom declined rapidly. It was really a dreadful year. And I moved them from Belgium, where they were, to a retirement home near me. And so it's been a really tough year, and I've invited them over for tea. And my mom doesn't talk anymore at this point. Like she's really inside in her own silence. And my dad, who's both exhausted from his surgeries, is also really deeply sad about this. And so I'm asking her, hey mom, you want some tea? Do you want some sugar in your tea? And my dad's like, don't bother, she's not going to answer. I'm like, Dad, I'm not talking to her so she's answer. I'm just talking to her, right? But that day, my mom, who wasn't talking, right? So I asked her if she wanted tea. She said yes. I asked her if she wanted more. She said more. She said yes to something. She said no to something. She said more. And she said a bit, un peu. And my dad was moved to tears. And it was, and then after all that, I sat down across the table from her, and I could see that she was looking at me, but she was looking a little bit confused. And so I lifted my glass, these glasses like this, and then she smiled at me. And it, had I not done my personal work, like, this moment would have been totally out of my reach.
So a couple of things you just said. One is, and I love this, is that the personal work journey, which we all can do in our own way, and I know you are one resource for people and for women specifically. The personal, because a lot of people say, well, I've done a lot of therapy and nothing's changed, right? But the reality is that the personal work journey is about expanding our capacity to be in this world. It's about expanding our capacity to, like you said, if I hadn't done my personal work, I wouldn't have noticed, neither appreciated nor be moved, because you were moved by the moment that your mother smiled to you. And it's such an important point.
And not even able to actually be there for that, and be in that moment.
You would have missed it.
Totally.
And the other thing you said, which you may not have intended it to say, or I'm just putting things together, is that when you were finding your path and there was that a little bit of an emptiness inside, and all the PhDs were not cutting it, and you went into the scrapbook project, however you want to call it, and you were saying how in some ways, by organizing and arranging memories, which is what a scrapbook and a photo album is, you were reinforcing happiness in your customers or in the people that participated. And you said something about the concept, like, so here's where I'm curious. What is the role of images or photographic memory in the building of our happy, like almost like a happiness well?
That's interesting because I piece this path kind of backwards because now I'm all about helping people find and experience their true happiness. And in looking back, it seems that was the beginning of it. But I haven't taken the photo albums with me. So it's certainly one avenue. And it's funny that you bring that up because it was an activity. It was the activities I asked people to do when I ran a happiness challenge. Like I gave them daily activities and it was around photos. So yeah, I don't have an answer to that, but I personally love my photos. I think if you ask that question, maybe you do too.
I do. I mean, usually the photos we keep are the memories we love. We don't, it's rare unless we found some comfort or joy or peace in a memory, even in a difficult situation, we wouldn't keep that photo necessarily, or at least not properly tucked away in a nice album. It might be somewhere, forgotten. So I think in some ways, unconsciously, a photo album will always have happiness inside it because we curated only the moments that we wanted to preserve.
Yes, and so it's true that I guess a superficial aspect of happiness, if you just want to elevate your mood, which is
one part of it.
It's got plenty of merit.
Somewhere.
Yes, I call it superficial. That's not bad, but it's kind of in the moment. It doesn't change anything underneath. You know what I mean? But so to have an envelope of photos that have people you love who you don't see very often, or memories that you like that were happy memories. That's certainly one. It's certainly one tool to elevate your mood, kind of almost instantly, is to kind of interact with those images. Yeah, that's a very interesting question.
Yeah, one of the things I love to do with my work is I believe that in the stage of my life and many of the people I work with and my clients, it's all about coming whole and integrating. It's like a moment in our life where we are running businesses where we want impact and fulfillment and personal fulfillment. And so it's all about integrating. And I believe that whether it makes sense or not, every single thing we did in our past life or through our life, not past life, but through our journey, somehow it makes sense, even though it might sound crazy. And so I like helping my clients, and I always see how can we integrate past experiences to make the work that we do today even richer, because it becomes unique. There's not many PhD engineers, data scientists, Gestalt therapists, happiness coaches who also did photo album scrapbooks. Right. Not leaving anything behind allows you to really stand out in the marketplace.
That's true. Yeah, that's very good. Thank you.
So let's talk about, of all the people you could help, who do you love and who do you focus on helping and why?
Well, I have two answers to that, actually. When I work with clients in therapy, one-on-one in therapy, I really love to, and actually those are the people who kind of find me. I tend to work with young women who are like in their high 20s or low 30s, and who are, at the beginning still of their adult life, or, early still in their adult life. And I find that that's a really good place. Like they've grown up enough and they have enough maturity that they're able actually to look back to their experiences and to look in and to look at to be willing to do the work and to be able to do the work. So that's in the therapy work, that's what I prefer. And then I have a line of also personal development programs. And for those, I enjoy working more with more mature women who are maybe in a similar stage of life to mine. So maybe who have had, some kids who are not all out of the house, but also who have some flexibility in their time. So, business owners who have some flexibility in their time so that they can really put in the time to do, because everybody's got online programs and people can buy, but if they don't do them, it doesn't change anything. So yeah, so I have two slightly different audiences depending on the kind of work or favorite audiences, which was your question, I think.
And so let me ask you this, because I want to make sure that if anybody's listening and that this resonates, that they, they reach out to you. Like, what do I need to be feeling to reach out to you? Like, what do I need to be experiencing to say, okay, Sonia is a perfect person for me?
Yeah, that's a great question too. So, if you're feeling like, there's something missing in your life, like things, on the outside are looking good, but you're not, there's a bit of a void, there's a bit of things aren't quite as fulfilling as you would like. Also, if you have relationships that aren't fulfilling, that's like, because I have a very relational approach, and relationships are also some of the biggest determinants of a life well lived, it turns out.
It turns out. Go figure, right?
Go figure. So yeah, so just a sense that, you want more from life. So that's the perfect person for my personal development line of work. And then the people who call me, for therapy, they have really, something's really nagging at them in a way that's really interfering much more with their life. I mean, it's a question of degree of, it's similar things, but they're more intense in the therapy world than in the personal development world, I think.
Yeah. And I have a question. So I may be mispronouncing it, but what is a Gestalt therapist? What does it stand for?
Yeah, so Gestalt therapy, it was founded by, I can't remember if he's German or Austrian, Fritz Perls, who was a dissident of psychoanalysis. But if I put it very simply, where psychoanalysis seeks to understand why, Gestalt is all about looking at how things happen and looking at how the experience is. And so what I work with people is really my tool in working with, so the Gestalt therapist tool in working with clients is really what's going on with me. So as I listen to this person, what am I seeing? What am I hearing? What am I imagining? What am I feeling in my body? And that's going to inform me to often just be curious, like really cultivate the curiosity to really get the other person's experience, but also be attentive to the way that they enter contact with me. So it's not about doing anything right. It's funny because a lot of people come to me and they're looking for like a manual for
the right decision, the right
decision, or the other people, they're not behaving right, or there's, things.
How do I fix them? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not about that, but it's just really the more you can be aware of your own way of being and the impact that has on the world, and the more you have keys to impact that and to change that. So I would say, yeah, it's all about the space in between and looking at the space in between and what happens in there.
I love that. And it sounds like it's more connected with your heart and intuition versus the intellectual, logical processing.
Absolutely.
That keeps it up here, but doesn't necessarily integrate it.
Mm-mm.
Love that. I mean, we could talk about a lot of books, but let's talk about your book. You have a book.
Oh, my book. Oh my God. Yes, I have a book.
Tell me about your book.
Yeah. So I wrote this book in French and in English. So it's Happiness Now, A Guided Journey. So it's a personal development book. You can get it on Amazon, or you can ask me for a signed copy, and if you pay for shipping, I'll send it to you. And so it's a personal development book. So you were asking me to describe my book. Yeah. So I take the reader by the hand through a first part that's on mindset. Like you want more happiness. Like, what are you looking, why, what's going on that you want that? And, it's not always going to be easy because the personal development work, sometimes it gets a bit harder before it gets better, right? It's, you have to go look at what's not working, and that, a lot of people are in denial of.
It's like cleaning a closet, before the closet is nice and clean and organized, it's messy, very messy.
That's a great analogy. There's an element of pain that I think doesn't come when you're cleaning the closet, but
I don't know. My daughter's closet, there's a pain there.
Okay. I get it. Anyway, so
But
first part on mindset, and then the four parts like that are about, so your mindset, and then the second part, 4 chapters. So one about your physical health. So I'm not a doctor and I don't, pretend to be one, but there's like ways to be mindful of your physical health and look at different aspects. So I invite the reader to, to ponder some questions, your emotional health, your relationships, obviously, and then something around spirituality and meaning. So it's spirituality light, but still kind of the idea that, we're not, we're in a big world, and there, what is there beyond me and beyond us? And how do you, what's your relationship to that? And then in the third part, there's 23 activities that people can try. There's sometimes as simple as, a breathing exercise, or talk about morning routine, but there's 23 activities that I suggest to people that they can try so that they can have their own menu of
options too.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, I'll definitely put it in the show notes and have people check it out. So, I really enjoyed our conversation, and I love this journey of yours from this science, maybe more exact space of numbers and logic, hoping that will fulfill that kind of little bit of a void, and that the permission to go from the logic to the heart and to the more, intuitive and feeling side of you to do the work that you're doing. And I'm very lucky. I want to celebrate how lucky the people that you get to work with are, because I think to have someone, I usually interview people who fell into a journey or who fell into a type of work, but it sounds like you were very intentional in arriving where you are. And I think that's something worth celebrating.
Yeah, I was certainly intentional about, finding the light, finding something. And then, but the further I got into my journey, then at some point it became really rewarding, right? It didn't start off that way right away. But so now I'm, all about the journey. And yes, I'm available to explore your journey, in the people who might want to explore your journey. And I can listen to it all.
Well, anything else you would like to add as we wrap up today?
Yes, well, I would love to put in your show notes also a freebie that I have that's the 5 things in the way of your true happiness.
Okay.
And so if people want to download that and enjoy some of the...
What is the URL for that? So we can say it out loud. We also will put in the show notes.
It's not a great
spell. But what's your website?
URL.
What's your general website?
My website is eudokima.com. So that's EUDOKIMA.com, and then /EN. Otherwise it'll be, the other side's in French. So
yeah, we'll put all of this information in the show notes. One of the things that I ask as we finish is, because, we're all about clarity and action, right? At Masters in Clarity. What is one action that you want to invite our listeners to take as we wrap up this episode?
In true personal development form, I'd like your listeners to think about the relationships that are important to them, most important to them, and then see which ones are, working well and the way they want, and really enjoy that. And then the ones that they, that they think are not working as well as they would like, I'd like them to look inside themselves and see something that they could do. So maybe they need to ask for something, maybe they need to apologize for something, maybe they need to suggest something new, but just look inside themselves, something that they could do. Because, I really believe happiness, it's an inside job, and you can get others to help. But if you don't take responsibility for your own happiness, it ain't going to happen.
It's not going to happen. Happiness.
It would have been so easy for me to say, I'm unhappy because of my mom, but what if I do that? Then I'm stuck being unhappy. So
you have no control on that. Well, thank you so much, Sonia, for your time and for showing up for our listeners today. And we will put your free resource in the show notes, and also the book and where you can get it. And thank you so much for making time today.
Thank you, Dolores.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Masters in Clarity. If you loved today's show, please subscribe to our podcast and leave us a review. Share this episode with 2 people in your world, and as a gift, go to mastersinclarity.com/free to download free clarity resources. Join your host, Dolores Hirschmann, next time to continue forging a clear path to your impactful success.